So welcome back, Tucker.
Thank you.
How does it feel?
It feels great, actually.
Yeah?
I feel completely comfortable here.
Well, can I make you a bit more uncomfortable? I hope you will. I was going to say, don't get too comfortable too soon. So this is obviously your second visit, and last year was your first time here in Riyadh. And I've seen, you are quite prolific on your socials and in the media, and you've spoken, I would say, very positively, very highly about this country and about your experience. So let's talk a bit about what that global attention on a country like this is going to do, and get some of your perspectives from your media angle, from the lens of narratives, to help everyone in this room to tell some stories about this country and the projects that they're working on.
Well, it's amazing to me. I mean, I first came to the Gulf 25 years ago because of the drama in the surrounding region just as a journalist, and I've been in and out, not of this country, but other GCC countries for 25 years. So I've watched this amazing thing happen, and not just the incredible growth in infrastructure and development and technology, but also just the gathering of a lot of people from around the world, interesting people. And I was just saying to a friend of mine sitting right there that one of the things I love so much about coming here is you'll go to dinner in Riyadh or other cities in the area, and you just run into people you know from other places. What are you doing here? Well, what are you doing here? Yeah. And there's something wonderful about that.
Indeed.
And it is a kind of weirdly free space. Well,
with so much opportunity and potential as well, you can understand why people are coming.
Yes, and there's a cultural quality here that is almost never remarked upon, but that I really value, which is graciousness, politeness, which is is a huge feature of the culture that I grew up in, and is changing, unfortunately, in parts of the West. But that was very prized in the world that I grew up in. Kindness to strangers, politeness, some formality, not stiffness, but formality, and hospitality.
Absolutely.
Treating strangers as family, and that was a big part of the world I grew up in, and that exists here, and it's very obvious. That's not fake at all. I'm having dinner at someone's house tonight, who I really like, but it was just very natural, so I love that, and it's welcoming.
Indeed it is. And do you feel the welcome or the experience has been different even the second time round? Because, last time was, you were a newbie, and now you're an old hand at Saudi. Do you think it's changed even in that year?
Well, enormously, and the perceptions have changed. I mean, I really grew up in Washington, where the Saudi government had a huge presence, and they were very active, and they were part of the city and part of the decision-making, and friends with my family. So there were a lot of Saudis around growing up, but the country itself, KSA, was this kind of distant, mysterious place that evoked camels and repression, and no one actually went there, and live in a compound, and all this stuff you would hear about it. And even last year when I came, I had people say, "You went to Saudi Arabia?" And of course this year, just a year later, it's yeah, of course, everyone's in Saudi, they're...
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see that, because it's reality-based. I'm not here to promote the Saudi government, of course, I'm American, but I think that Saudi Arabia is a fundamentally real country. It's an ancient country. It's the physical center of one of the largest religions in the world, and it is, of course, a force because of its resources and its diplomacy. So, I'm glad to see a real country get treated like a real country, like an actual country, not just a client of some other country. So it's good.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if people had some ideas about those things you've spoken about, the graciousness, the hospitality, the kindness, before they commented on it from afar? Because I think it's an experience which, once you've had, changes your perception of this place.
I strongly agree with that, and I've taken a lot of abuse in my country for saying things like that out loud. I'm, for whatever it's worth, a pretty fervent Christian, and I feel completely comfortable here in the seat of Islam, not because, right? I mean, and why is that? And just saying that is a threat somehow to some people who are propagandists and liars, but it's true, so I'm going to say it. And moreover, I think it points up something that's really important about life, which is it's worth meeting people and seeing things before you try to assess them.
Oh, that's a great life lesson. I wish more people
I try not to
that.
talk about anything I haven't smelled. And I mean that, and including people. How do you really know? What you're doing is you are taking other people's word for something, which, if it's, say, your wife or your children or someone you love, is okay. But if it's a propagandist you've never met who's trying to convince you to do something against your own interests, maybe you should not take his word for it.
Yeah, I think we could all take a dose of that.
Yes.
Bringing it to the people in this room, you've obviously spoken to huge audiences around the world, very diverse audiences. Why do gatherings like this matter so much?
Well, because on many levels, it matters. One, because it's just amazing to see a country kind of become more fully itself or reinvent parts of itself. I mean, the things about Saudi I admire most are just fundamental. I mean, it's moving on 2,000 years of being what it is, and I love that about it. But physically, of course, the country is changing in ways that are just remarkable. I tried to get a handle on the population of Riyadh this morning, asking people who live here, knowledgeable people, including in your government, and there was anywhere between 8 and 10, a lot. Yeah. And I just think it's amazing to see that. But it's also important for me personally to go to this event because it's a window into the changing global economy, which I think is really interesting. Like where people buy property of all things, which is not something you can move, right? Absolutely. I mean, it's one thing to buy, even energy. Yeah. By the way, you can put it in an LNG container or oil tanker or whatever. Gold, you can throw it in your bag. A housing development doesn't really travel well.
Not so much.
Where people spend their money or their funds' money, their investors' money, their LPs' money, really matters because it's an expression of their faith in the future of the place where they're buying. Yeah. These are not short-term decisions. These are not derivatives. These are assets, like in the truest sense. Yeah. So I'm really interested in where investment is going, and I track it. By the way, Madrid is killing it, which is interesting in terms of foreign investment in real estate. Yeah. I would not have expected that. I don't know why that's happening. I plan to find out because it tells us something important about where the world is going. Yeah. And so an event like this, you just learn.
I mean, investment's a fascinating topic because obviously with the change in the non-Saudi ownership law,
yes,
all eyes are on where foreign investment is going,
especially
and is coming.
Asset investment. Yeah. It's just different from equities. It just is. Yeah. Because once you buy it, like it's there, so you really have to think about, it's easy to dump NVIDIA stock. It's harder to dump an office building. So like, people really think about it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's your take then with this new law? People who are non-Saudi are going to be able to invest, are going to be able to own here in the kingdom. Do you think that's an exciting thing? As somebody who looks at stories, looks at kind of opportunity, what does that say to you?
Well, I mean, I think it's a referendum on the world's confidence in the future of Saudi Arabia. So it's like fascinating to watch there. And I presume, like a lot of things about Saudi's growth and maturity, it's going to be managed wisely. Yeah. I also think, however, having been in a lot of different places around the world and living in the United States, just keep hold of your country fundamentally. Yeah. Do not let foreigners buy your country. Parts of your country, assets in your country, great, but not your country. So that would be my advice as an American.
But the investor confidence, like you say, this sense of people being able to put down real roots in a place, financial roots in a place, it changes the way you view a country, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, and one thing you learn about investment in assets, it just makes intuitive sense, is that people aren't doing it without a whole suite of other promises met, like some expectation that the laws aren't going to change overnight, you know what I mean? That you can insure it. Things like that, questions that are very real to asset investors, really very real to energy investors, questions that are affecting the prospects in Venezuela. For example, you need to guarantee and convince investors that you have actually guaranteed a bunch of different things. And so, yeah, it is a vote of confidence for sure in a country.
Absolutely. And a spotlight, I suppose, and that attention is coming much more closely to Saudi in lots of ways.
Yeah, it is. As someone who, again, as I said, grew up around a lot of Saudis just in Washington, I don't know how big the presence is now. The current ambassador's father was then quite a figure and a friend of my parents and like everywhere in Washington then, the prince. Even then, everyone liked the Saudis because they were very sophisticated and they all spoke French and you know what I mean, Skied and Stad and all this stuff. And they knew what was going on in the world. But the idea that you would buy property in their country was like completely unimaginable. Yeah. Like maybe on an Aramco compound or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, things are changing. So everyone in this room is obviously involved in building better cities, playing their part, and some of that's through big entities, big corporates, and some of it's through smaller organizations. Now, you started your own outlet in 2010, didn't you? What was harder than you expected about building something from the ground up?
Well, just the uncertainty of it, being responsible for payroll and basically being responsible for the future. The trade-off, however, is you don't take orders from people you don't respect. And I think I'd probably rather live in poverty at this point than do that again, because there's something uniquely degrading about it, especially for a middle-aged man, which I am at 56. I'm just not gonna do that ever again. So there is a freedom in it that is unmatched by anything else, but there's also a lot of risk, obvious risk, and there's also something kind of nice in the way that, like, if you have dogs, like, they just, at 6 o'clock, you feed them, they're kind of psyched that they don't have to go find the dog food themselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as an employee, I felt the same way.
Yeah, because you did then go back into a big organization, and then in 2023, you left that machine again.
No, I was actually fired from that machine.
Don't say
ignominiously.
that,
No, fired, sacked. Handed my lunchbox and told to go home. Yes, I was.
Yeah.
I was.
Okay, I've been fired as well. Who has been fired? Anyone in the room been fired? You're going to admit it or not today?
Admit it? I'm bragging about it. No, it's a...
I think bragging about being fired is not a bad place to start. So.
I've really enjoyed it. Let me just say, because it's true, that every middle-aged man should be humiliated in public at least once, because it's good for your soul. And the option, if you know one or married to one or are one of a middle-aged man who's just succeeded and never been humiliated, they're very hard to have dinner with because they think they're God. So it's very important to be reminded that, no, I am mortal, I'm kind of ridiculous. You know what I mean?
I absolutely know what you mean. I mean, until you've fallen off a stage or, tripped over.
So my theory is that if I ever became king, and we don't have a monarchy officially in our country yet, but the first act of my royal court would be to require every man over 50 to install a full-length mirror outside his shower. And so when you emerge from the shower, you see yourself in all your unimpressive glory, in your lumpy furriness, and you realize, nope, I'm not God. I'm just some guy. I mean, and that's good for you.
Alternatively, we could just give everyone a role as the court jester in your royal court for at least a week, right?
I would have those too. I would do a lot of things.
Yeah, I think that would be quite fun. Amazing. So let's talk about change. Let's talk about things that move fast. Let's talk about what makes you trust that it's real and not just a show, because you cannot deny the fact that things in the kingdom are changing fast. So what does that look like from your perspective? How can we really kind of bank those wins, prove those points that it's real change and it's here to stay?
Simple.
Oh.
I have a 2-word answer. Plant trees. That's real.
They're planting a lot of trees here.
Nothing digital is actually real. It gets taken out by an EMP attack. I live surrounded by trees that were planted when my grandparents were born, and they will be there when my grandchildren are old. Trees are a longitudinal bet.
Absolutely.
And in this region, it's not a small thing to plant a tree because you have to water it with the world's most expensive desalinated water, trucked, piped in from the sea, which is not close. So any place that's doing that is clearly betting on the future, not in a rhetorical way, but in a physical way. And the accompaniment to that very quickly would be trust the physical over the rhetorical every single time. There's a reason, and I'm not attacking crypto in any way. I think crypto is really interesting and potentially a great thing for the world, but I don't notice the Chinese central bank storing it in its vaults. They're not dumping treasuries to buy crypto. They're dumping treasuries to buy gold, okay? Yeah. So I'm not even weighing in on that good or bad. I'm just noting what's happening. And why are they doing that? Because gold has intrinsic value? No, it doesn't actually.
Yeah,
it's got some industrial applications, but because it's physical, and is proven over time to be a reliable store of value for whatever reason. So in the end, people trust the physical world as they should over the digital or illusionary world, and you should too. And that's one of the reasons I've always been a real estate investor, or buyer, and one of the reasons I like real estate people, because they can point to a physical thing and say, here's where the power comes from, here's where the water comes from. here's how many square feet it is, like or pardon me, meters. And it's actually a physical place on a map in space and time, and that beats the fake world, even the blockchain, every single time.
Yeah. Well, you talk about planting trees, you talk about tangible buildings. We do that. How do we make that story stick? Because that's what your world is all about. It's about telling compelling stories. It's about finding the stories that kind of stick in people's minds and anchor points of truth and proof. How do you tell stories that stick?
So I've toured a lot of the developments here in Riyadh, not because I'm a big investor, but because I'm interested, very interested. And I've seen all the models. I was just looking at them right now. And one of the things I notice is the ratio of green space to housing density is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Victorian London, it's New York 1910, it's Frederick Law Olmsted. It's like someone is planning this with nature integrated into it at very high cost. So it's the cost that I'm really struck by, especially here. Green space in Riyadh has got to be the most expensive just because of the physical limitations, the water, you're not actually selling the green space. You're getting nothing for this. Why are you doing it?
Yeah.
You're doing it because that's what actual civilization looks like, in my opinion. That's what it looks like. People need nature. They're born needing nature. They are products of nature. God created us and nature. And so to live without it is a kind of punishment. It is a kind of crime against the human soul. And to spend money you don't need to spend to restore that, I just saw it right there on the map, the ratio of green space to housing units is remarkable. And so when I see those pictures or walk through it, I'm like, okay, these people are serious. This is not like I'm going to build the densest condo complex I can on the outskirts of Las Vegas and turn it as quick as I can and then offshore my money. This is like, no, we live here. We want it to be beautiful. We're going to be here at the beginning and at the end, and then our kids are going to be here with your kids. Like, I like that kind of thinking, and it's increasingly rare.
So how do we amplify that message? Because you've seen it, like you said, you've smelt it, and you've walked it.
Oh, yeah.
But we have a global audience who can take some of these messages back with them. How do we amplify that story?
By texting people pictures of it.
Okay.
That's what I would do. I would say this is, Riyadh, which is like in some ways a city that it's not obvious that it would be here. Jeddah's very obvious, right?
Yeah.
Why is Jeddah? Well, clearly it's an ancient port. It's next to the holy city, so obviously it's there. Riyadh, the biggest city in the region by far in the GCC, like why? Because it was planned and built on purpose, and here's what they did. And people just can't conceive of that.
No.
And because it is, let's be real, very, very new, like as a true city, as a global city, people have no idea what it looks like. Yeah. And you send them pictures of like Central Park in the middle of Riyadh, and they're like, oh, wait a second. I know what that is. That's wise planning.
Yeah.
That's not fly-by-night stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
And we're living in a world, aren't we, of disinformation, misinformation,
lying,
lying, AI-enhanced, generated, created images, messages. Is there something that you're seeing in this world of media and the new narrative that helps us to tell people in a way that they know is true?
Well, look, I mean, I think I would say two things. One, I try not to look at media because I think it's so fundamentally dishonest that it can only pollute and corrupt me. When we see things, and this is true of violent images, this is true of pornographic images, it changes us. It's not good for us. It's not good to eat poison food. It's not good to see dishonest or misleading images. We can't help it. We are changed by that. So I just try and stay away from it. I read the New York Times probably during the Obama administration. No thanks. Apparently they read about me quite a bit. I've never seen any of it, and I'm never going to. So I try and filter that stuff out.
Yeah.
But I do think that true things sound different. It's almost like if you're trying to measure tone in music, like certain tones are just resonant in a way others aren't. You hear it, and you're like, oh, what is that?
Like a pattern interrupt.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. There's a science to this that I don't really understand, but I know it because I've experienced it, and true words sound different. They ring differently, and you don't forget them. So I would just have confidence that the truth actually is the best sales pitch. And two, I would say, if you're thinking about how to talk about things and meet needs of people globally, longitudinal thinking, security, placid, safe, in a world that is changing so fast that dynamic doesn't begin to describe what's happening, changing on every level. The global economic system is, of course, changing. The apportionment of global power is changing. The move from unilateral to multipolar is very much underway and very much uncertain what will happen.
Yeah.
It's going to take a lot of wisdom to get that right, to have a globalized economy but a multipolar world. That's never been attempted before.
Yeah.
And I have hope, but I have concerns, as anyone watching would. And so what are people looking for? They're looking for a safe haven, something that improves at a brisk pace but doesn't fundamentally change too fast. Improvement, we can handle quick improvement. We cannot handle wholesale, as human beings, we cannot handle wholesale change very well. We're not wired to metabolize that.
Right.
And we don't do it well, and it becomes chaos and very disorienting to people. So the thing that I like, and I actually brought one of my children, who's very much American, to Riyadh this week, and I said, look, well, Saudi Arabia, what is Saudi Arabia? And I said, just come see it, and I think you will feel the calm, the stability, the safety, which is not a small thing. As someone who, I know everyone here travels a lot, you're in the real estate business, you're in cities all over the world. There are safe cities in the world. There aren't a ton of them, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's not like 100. There are like 10, especially in the West. You know, from Istanbul west, there aren't a lot. Yeah. And this is a safe place, and you can feel it immediately. And so I think that is worth saying. It's something that local people probably take for granted.
I think you're right. I think people don't necessarily always realize what's very unique about their environment or their space. But it's being opened to visitors and a massive global spotlight with Expo 2030, with the World Cup in 2034. We've got a lot more people who are going to come through the doors of the kingdom over the next few years to experience those things like you have just said.
Can I give a piece of totally unsolicited and totally inappropriate advice to the...
Let me check. May Tucker Carlson give us a piece of totally unsolicited advice? Yes.
As I said, I am not a Muslim. I'm not going to become a Muslim. I am a fervent and sincere Christian. I think alcohol is really bad. I just think that. And I love that there's not a lot of booze here. And I know that there are some people who are like, well, people aren't going to come here unless we sell alcohol. And I know that, by the way, if you want to drink in any place on the planet, you can find out. You can make it yourself out of prune juice if you want, right? Anywhere. Doesn't matter. Prison, people make alcohol. So you're always going to have alcohol. But can you buy it in a bar? Is it easy to buy alcohol? I love the fact that it's not here. I just do. I'm not arguing for prohibition in the United States. I live in a different culture, a different world. But it's nice to come to a place where it's like, no, we don't do that. You know, if you get bacon, it's veal bacon, whatever that is. Okay, I'll try that. And no, you can't have a vodka tonic. Okay. And everyone sort of knows the rules. I don't know. I think there's a balance between progress and dilution of what makes your civilization what it is.
Yeah.
And I would be very, very careful of that. You know, tons of changes here. Of course, I'm a Westerner. I'm very liberal by Saudi standards, so it's great. But there are certain things I'd hold on to, and I have a whole list of them which I'm not going to share here. But the obvious one is alcohol. And I know that when the World Cup comes, people are like, well, we can't, you know, all the British soccer fans are drunk all day. Like, we need to serve them booze. They can stay sober for a week.
I think
that would be my view.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll be good for them and good for you. Yeah. So I'd stick with the no booze stuff.
It's an interesting debate that's happening a lot, especially with the opening up to, you know, and the increase in tourism as well, and this desire that the country has these different sort of economic pillars. But like you say, there are always two sides to every coin.
You guys have a lot. I mean, I love the fact that your country and others in the region are really thinking hard about how do we diversify our economies? We can't just be petrostates, like that doesn't work.
Absolutely.
And I love that. I think it's so forward-thinking. But let's just be totally real. Like, you don't need to make money from alcohol sales. Like, if people don't want to come because they can't get alcohol, that's okay. There are tons of people who are fine with that for a week. Like, if you can't go a week without being drunk, you know what I mean? Go to Scotland. It's okay.
And
there are other places for you. No, I'm not against Scotland. I'm for Scotland, but I'm just saying that's more my culture, you know? But keep your culture.
Yeah, and I think it is going to be really interesting to see how those economic pillars do develop, because we're talking about tourism, we're talking about sport, we're talking about real estate, we're talking about property technology, all of those different areas where there's increased investment, where there's increased focus.
And increased pressure to conform to other people's standards of behavior. And you should resist that as much as you can.
So how?
Be yourself, be totally unapologetic. We're Saudi Arabia, we're the seat of Islam. We have holy cities here. And we're not doing that. And by the way, we're rich, and you can't make us do it, okay? We're not Burkina Faso, you can't boss us around, okay? If you don't like it, leave. And not in a mean way, but just don't allow international bodies, and particularly the soccer people, okay? They want to come in and tell you, oh, you need this, that, or the other thing. You need transgender marriage or something. You can't play soccer in your country. Buzz off.
But you're saying go with change, but change in a way that's authentic.
Stay true to yourself and your own values. That's it. It's not about being mad at anyone else. I travel a lot, and you guys all do too, and you know that in certain countries they have certain customs, and you don't understand them, maybe you don't like them, but it's not your country, and they're not your customs, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. I go to places where they practice religions, I don't even understand them. I'm not mad about that. I don't live there. Yeah. But what I don't do is try to say to them, you're not allowed to do that, because it's not my country. No. So don't let anyone do that to you. That's all I'm saying. Have self-respect.
I think that's a wonderful message, and I think it's something that hopefully with the global spotlight on the country, we'll be able to maintain. And
it's just so insidious, though. They come in and they're like, well, you can't have this thing unless you change your values? It's like, I love Europe. My ancestors are from Europe. I have family in Europe. I absolutely love Europe, but like, how are modern European values working for modern Europeans? Yeah. Not so well. So don't take that lecture from them. Yeah, don't let the Belgians tell you how to live.
We've had a lot of people on these stages. We had Dr. Haller just before you talking about doing things in a way which absolutely preserves the essence of the people. It preserves the essence of the country.
I thought that was the whole point. Diversity is our strength. Exactly. I actually believe that. I like diversity. I like going to places that are different. I respect differences. I'm enriched by them. I really mean that. Absolutely. I've been in the Islamic world during Ramadan. I'm like, what is this? This is amazing. I'm not going to do it. I'm not Muslim, but I'm like, I really respect this. Yeah. Difference is good, but the people who tell you diversity is our strength don't believe it. They want uniformity. They want you to obey them. And how about no?
So let's just talk for a moment about the changes and how that can be something where we do preserve our heart, we preserve our spirit. You talked about hope. Yeah. Now, it's a very uncertain world. It's a very fast-changing world. I know you have deep faith. I know a lot of people in this room have deep faith, and that's part of hope. Are there any other ways in which you hold on to hope despite the uncertainty?
Honestly, I think that prayer is the key. I didn't always think that. I'm the product of a very secular world. I learned that. I was not taught that as a child. I was born in 1969, the year of the moon landing. Whether or not it happened, irrelevant. We thought it did. And that was kind of sort of peak secular. Science had conquered nature. We put a man on the moon. So we were in charge, and everything that flows from that. And I did not consider that God was real, or that you could talk to him, or that he would answer. And it's only 56 years of rough and tumble living that have shown me that that is absolutely true, and it is our only hope in the end. Yeah. There are so many things we can't control. We think we can. We come up with these plans. God laughs at us because they're a little absurd, let's be honest. And the only thing that we can be certain of is that he's in charge, not us, and that we will be judged on what we do, and that in the end, it's fine because he's in control and not us. I mean that. I feel that.
I think holding on to hope and with the faith that we have is a wonderful, wonderful takeaway.
It's the only answer.
Yeah. So another takeaway, because I'd love to give our audience a couple more practical nuggets.
Okay.
I know, because you've had such an amazing career, and we can definitely learn from some of your expertise and skill. We've talked a bit about avoiding some of the kind of falsified media, and I think that's a great lesson when we have this media attention. But let's just talk for a moment about listening, because you have spent your life listening for what's real. So is there a technique or a tool that you might give give everybody in this room that they can take into a meeting or a big conversation to really listen for what's real?
I think if you listen carefully, you know instantly what's real. You don't always know what it means, but we know a lot more than we allow ourselves to believe about others in the world around us. We can feel it. I would always say to I have 1 million daughters, tons of daughters, and I would always say to them, if you feel a situation is threatening, it is. You don't have to know why. Remove yourself, because your instincts do not lie to you. So we know. It's a matter of listening carefully and believing what we know. It's a matter of listening to God's voice or instinct or however we describe it, but the truth is within us. We are born with it. And again, the details are sometimes very confusing and we don't know what the details are. But if something is a threat, if someone is dishonest, we know instantly. And if you spend time around animals, you know, they know. And they did not go to college, any of them. But they are born with this ability, and we have it as well. That's the first thing. Second, this is just advice aimed at me. Try not to talk so much. and especially men, this is a male thing, not always just men, but some women talk too much for sure.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I guess they do. So it's everybody. I just know in myself, I have a tendency to talk too much. And try to let other people talk and actually care about what they're saying. They're fascinating. People are the only really interesting thing in this world. People are amazing. People will shock you every single time. What? If you just sit and ask someone like, how'd you get here? Where are you from? The stories they tell are like beyond belief. And I don't mean heads of state or famous generals or movie stars. I just mean like anybody. Like the random person next to you at dinner. Where are you from? Oh, I was born in Malawi, and then we moved to Luxembourg, and then I was a fireman in Idaho. And it's like, wait, what? Be curious, because curiosity is the only way to learn about the world.
I think that's a wonderful, wonderful piece of advice. And I'm just going to close this by coming right back to the Real Estate Future Forum. You were a first-time visitor last year.
Yeah.
You've returned to us.
Yeah.
What is it that makes the Real Estate Future Forum such an unmissable event?
Because it's a window into the world. It's like all these people come, there's like this new part of the world that's growing. I mean, it's always had power inherently because of the religious sites. And then for the last 100 years, it had power because of the energy. Okay, that's been true my whole life. Now it has power, or a kind of power or influence, because it is open, not just relative to what it used to be 15 years ago, 10 years ago, but relative to what the rest of the world is becoming. The rest of the world is becoming less open, more aligned, more partisan. Even one of the most wonderful countries in the world, a country I truly love and have family from, Switzerland. One of my children lives in Switzerland. It's like, that's an amazing country. Everyone's been there. They are now an aligned country, and you can feel it, and it makes me sad. I hope they stop. But like, the world needs places where other cultures, other nationalities, other interests can meet on a kind of free zone, a kind of timeout where it's okay. You know, we don't agree, our governments don't agree, maybe our religions don't agree, our cultures don't agree. I mean, the first day I got here, last year, I'm walking down the street and a guy in earlocks, Orthodox Jew with earlocks, walks right up to me. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" He's American. I'm like, "What are you doing here?" I mean, I'd never been here before. Saudi Arabia. This guy, turns out he was like, we had mutual friends. He's a great guy. He's like, "Oh, building a hotel." I was like, "I think you're like an Orthodox Jew from Brooklyn." He's like, "Yeah, I love it here." And then you run into all these other random people, and it's like, the world needs places like that. It has to have them.
Like the forum.
And this is one of them right here. He was coming to this forum. And I just thought, man, I love that.
I love that too. I love that we've had you back on stage.
Thank you.
I've loved our conversation. We could have nattered for hours, I think. Could you please join me in showing your incredibly warm appreciation for Tucker Carlson?
That was so fun.